Next question is from microphone number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a question from Michael Sanderson from the Hunter Valley.
G'day board. Good to see you again. Just a bit of housekeeping to start with. I'd just like to point out 250S of the Corporations Act that requires the chair of an AGM to allow reasonable questions and comments, and point out that it is an offence of strict liability under section 6.1 of the Criminal Code not to do so. One thing I noticed when the slides went up, there was only 24 characters allowed for a question online. I hope that's that I would consider to be totally unreasonable. That's 10% of an X comment. I think that's rather unreasonable. Anyway, I'll go to the questions. Because the 4 major banks are deemed too big to fail, they enjoy a borrowing advantage over smaller banks due to government guarantees. The RBA has calculated this advantage to be worth $3.6 billion per year. This comes with a social licence. 20 years ago, at the Money Matters in the Bush inquiry in 2004, the banks gave assurances they would close no branches. 20 years and a $72 billion windfall later, the bank's strategy is to continue to close banks, to lie, and to play the long game. If the government put people first and replaced too big to fail with not too big to nationalise policy, and at the same time re-established a public bank using Australia Post network to restore services, how would this affect ANZ's business model?
Is that your question, Mr. Sanderson?
Yeah, I've got just an add-on to this. Jim Chalmers approved Suncorp on the basis that there'd be no regional branch closures for 3 years. I'd like to know where's Jim Chalmers. I believe that undertaking's been broken. So yes, so there's a couple of questions.
Okay, thank you.
And I have got a follow-up.
Okay, well thank you for the questions. And let me just say, to begin with, we're very conscious of all the rules and requirements around the AGM, and we are scrupulous in sticking with them. On the regional banking front, look, this is a very important question facing the banks and I think the community. It's a very challenging question. Let me be clear to begin with, we have honoured all of our obligations that we've given to the government in terms of regional banks. We've said we would not close any regional branches over the next 3 years, and we will honour that obligation. The challenge I think we have as a community is that we've seen the use of branch banking decline dramatically over the last 5 years. In fact, only 8% of customers today depend on a branch for their banking. 96% of our transactions are done digitally. Having said that, we recognise the important role that branches play in the community. The big challenge for everybody is affordability. And we're working closely with the ABA and with the government to try and find ways in which we can sustain the commercial viability of branches in regional areas. It's a critical issue and a challenge for all of us.
I'd just like to pull you up on one of the responses. You said 96% of transactions, but not all interactions with branches are transactional. You know, people come into branch for many other things. If you consider those, the value of branches a lot more than just a transaction. My second question is, British Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli stated, there are 3 kinds of lies: lies, damn lies, and statistics. While giving evidence to a Senate inquiry into regional bank closures in Canberra, your chief executive, Shane Elliott, made the bold claim under oath that an independent university research had shown most older Australians, that's people like me, like and accept online banking environment. It was later revealed the study involved 46 people living in capital cities. Is this acceptable to the board? And what, if anything, is ANZ doing to help older Australians who are excluded from the digital world, who rely on cash, cheques and face-to-face service? And in light of Shane Elliott's departure, would ANZ consider opening Katoomba branch, as well as other branches they have closed, and restore critical services?
Do you want me to answer? Thanks, Michael. I mean, obviously we do consider branches. We don't just look at transactions. You're right to point that out. We look at, the number of people who come in, even if it's for a chat. So we do evaluate that more broadly. I mean, the chairman was just giving you the facts around the transaction numbers, because obviously that's the statistic that we have available. So we do take those things into account. Look, closing a branch is not an easy decision. We're very aware that it has an impact on a local community. But as shareholders, you would also expect us to ensure that we invest your money well to generate a fair and reasonable return. So we have to have balance these issues. We are a business that needs to generate a profit so that we can continue to grow and provide services to small businesses, mums and dads, big businesses, etc. So it's a difficult decision we go through. In terms of regional branches at the moment, as you probably are aware, we actually have a moratorium. We're not closing branches. We're not going to close any more for the next couple of years. We've made that agreement with the government to continue to support rural and regional customers. There is a big issue for the entire industry about how we maintain service, not just for ANZ, for all banks, that people deserve. I accept that. And so there are things that we're working on. You may have read some press around things we're doing with Armaguard, for example, to ensure that the provision of cash is still available for customers irrespective of where they live and what they do. There's a lot of work happening with the Australian Banking Association looking for alternative models. So for example, you might be aware that in some small towns, rather than close the branch, we start restricting hours. Maybe they're only open a couple of days a week. So we're always trying to find ways to provide service at reasonable cost to shareholders.
I have a suggestion. I believe the concept of a public bank using the Australia Post as the mechanism to deliver it throughout the country is back on Labor's agenda, although I don't see Jimmy Chalmers or his Lieutenant Stephen Jones doing much in that area. But anyway, it's been... why not support the establishment of a public bank that would offer these services to the regional areas, and then you blokes could just bugger off?
That's a,
you could go fully digital. You wouldn't have to.
Thank you, Mr. Sanderson. And there are a number of different ideas which are being canvassed. And let me assure you, we want to look after our customers nationally and to provide services as far and as wide as possible. The challenge for all of us, not just ANZ, is finding a way to do that effectively, to meet the high standards that our customers expect of us, and to be able to do it in a viable way. But
So
thank you for the suggestion.
You wouldn't support a public bank?
Well, I think the track record of public banks globally is quite mixed.
And I'd like
So
to
it's something
point
to
out
think hard about before
that
you decide
Katoomba
it's
was
the solution.
closed after the moratorium, so that's a furphy. Well, that's being nice.
The decision on Katoomba was made before we made any commitments in terms of regional branch banking.
I'd like you to pay Shane. I can pay Shane's deposition to the committee. I tell you what, he ain't convincing.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Sanders. Thank you, and thank you for attending.